Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faith and Fellowship. We're three guys based in Utah. I'm Kirk.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Lyric.
And the goal of our show is to share stories and beliefs from different people local to our area.
Our mission is to bring civil discourse and allow people who hold different faiths a platform to tell us what they believe.
The show's model consists of an interview episode and a follow-up response episode where we'll discuss the topics that were brought up with our guests in the initial interview and give our take from a biblical standpoint.
Full disclaimer, not all comments and opinions expressed by our guests represent our own opinions. Thank you guys for listening and enjoy this episode.
If you listen closely enough, you can hear Lyric quietly breathing into his microphone.
I was afraid
I'm actually suffocating over here.
Someone's going to fart.
Audio. Nice.
What?
All right, audio sync before we... All right, we're good.
Okay, we are back for part 2 with our guest, Yeng. Over here, we... Thank you. That's what he needed.
I'm going to have fun with these sound effects over here.
So, if you listened to the previous episode, if you haven't, I highly suggest you go back to kind of get some of the origin story from Yeng and kind of his introduction. Really interesting, good stuff. So this is part 2, where we kind of left off on is... well, first off, we'd like to touch back on the point. We brought up that Yeng, a Christian missionary, came to your people. It was a Catholic missionary. We're not going to try and pronounce his name because it's French and none of us can read correctly.
What are you talking about?
None of
Well,
us?
I guess
I just read it for all of you.
I just read it for you.
So
It's Frank
Y'all are over here like Frankie.
It's Francois.
So Franklin comes to Laos.
Francois. It's Francois.
Francois.
It's not that hard.
Everything's harder.
I'm
when you're
still
stupid.
going with Francois. I think it's
Yeah, I second that. Francois.
Let's call him Frankie for short.
Yeah, let's call him
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. all
Okay,
right.
so
we'll go with it.
Frank.
Yes.
Francois. Queso. So Frank comes to Laos. He uses the Latin alphabet to bring Christianity to your people, right? Or kind of introduce them to it and help them establish an alphabet. And so, kind of leading into our next point, he's there till 1940. Vietnam War kicks off. 1947.
Yeah.
After the Vietnam War ended, you said a pastor from
Christian Missionary Alliance.
what's the acronyms they use again? CMA. So
I thought that was Country Music Awards.
I thought it was a comparable market analysis in the real estate world. That's what
I guess acronyms can stand for different things.
Many different things.
I think that one's better than all the acronyms we have. But so this pastor and his wife come, right, and go a little bit on there, and then I guess we're going to go to, it leads into you coming from Thailand to Fresno.
Yeah. Well, my grandpa was introduced to Christianity around late 50s, early 60s. And I mean, growing up, we have always been part of the CMA church. And as you guys can see here in the United States, there's a big Hmong population that are in the CMA church. I mean, we do have our own branch in which we branch off, and it's the Hmong CMA. And I mean, we still are part of the American CMA church, but we have branched off into the Hmong CMA church. And majority of big states like Minnesota, California, even Georgia, where I'm moving to, they do have a couple of CMA churches down there too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, me personally, I was baptized into the CMA church, and when we moved up here to Utah, my brother is still part of the CMA church up in Salt Lake. It's just I moved down south.
Is that one a Hmong church up there in Salt Lake?
It's not a Hmong church. It's the American CMA church.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're born in a refugee camp,
Yes.
correct, in Thailand. Your parents are fleeing from the aftermath of the
Yes.
Vietnam War. And then your parents come to Fresno, and that's kind of where your start in America happens, right?
Well, originally we were based.
Oh, that's right.
Originally we were in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, and then my grandpa had this itchy finger of, hey, let's move out to California so we can farm. So he took the whole family At that time, my grandpa was the leader of the family. So if he points his finger, everybody follows.
Right.
So he moved the whole family from Providence, Rhode Island, down to Fresno, California, and he just kept everybody in the family, including my dad, my uncles and aunties, and everybody just kind of farmed. And we did that until my grandpa passed away, and then everybody kind of ventured off and did their own thing. But as far as I remember, my grandpa was kind of like the patriarch in the family. He was the one that took lead, and everybody just follows,
And that's pretty typical, right, among the Hmong culture, that the oldest son usually is the leader, right, of that certain family. Gotcha. So in Fresno, and you're like, there's a CMA Hmong church there, right? Is that what you're raised going to?
Yeah. So, I was raised CMA, but I was never really into church. Even though my mom and dad took us to church every Sunday, it was more of a burden for me to wake up early Sunday morning to go to church, never really got into church until 97, when my dad was going to move us out of California, just because he realized that, hey, if I don't move my family out of California, my son's not going to survive long, just because, I hate to bring it up all the time, but I was involved in gangbangs, so my dad realized that, hey, if I don't take my son out of California, I'm going to be one son short. Right. So he decided to take us out of California, and fortunately we got to Utah and we got into an accident. My dad was in a coma for about 6 months, and that's actually what really brought me to God. Like I tell everybody's like, oh, God brought you? And I was like, yeah, God brought me, but I didn't come to God happily. It was more of a God, if you're true and if you're there and if you're real, as what my parents told me, show me. So which he did. My dad had a 10% chance of survival, and that was the very first time I got down on my knees and say, God, if you're there, show me. And 6 months later, my dad came back.
Wow.
And I know your father, Craig, passed away not too long ago, but after this, so you have no intention really of stopping in Utah, right? I kind of always ask people
no intention,
who comes here and why they come here. There's like maybe you can count on your fingers the list of reasons people move to Utah. So your plan is to go to Ohio. That's where you guys were headed. Get in a car accident. Your dad is in the hospital. It seems like the Holy Spirit kind of comes over you, convicts you. You have this coming to Christ event that happens, and your father lived a long time after this, correct?
Yeah, he lived we got into an accident in 97. He lived until 2013. So, yeah.
So, not to go back too far, but in California, so you moved there. Your parents, your family, led by your grandfather, start going to CMA, and just like a CMA church, but just like a lot of people, church does not convert or save us. It's a personal faith.
It's personal faith.
And what you're saying is, instead of having that personal faith there in California, you got wrapped up in the culture, which in Fresno was gang related.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go into detail about that, like what you did and all that, but how, I guess I'm kind of intrigued about how that came about. Was it through school, like you were in public school? Was it the culture? How would you say you fell into the gang life?
Well, it was more of either be a predator or be a prey. So being part of the gang is if I was part of the gang, then I have like kind of like a second family, just so I won't be picked on. And originally the Hmong gang started because we were picked on by other race, and that's how the Hmong gang started, is just a band of little Hmong kids sticking together, just so we don't get picked on. And eventually it just grew from there to where now it's known as gangs, Hmong gangs, and you have like 10 different Hmong gangs in Fresno. and it just kind of grew from there. But originally, the gang started because we just banded together because we didn't want to be picked on.
And you still have, so your grandfather or your father says, okay, we need to move out of this.
Yeah.
Or, he was fearful he would lose you.
Yeah.
But you still have family there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you still have family that would be in these gangs that you know of?
I'm just glad a lot of my family grew up without being involved in the gang. Like all my little cousins, they grew up and they never really got involved with the gang just because they saw how I was involved with the gang. And I've always told them it's not a good idea to get involved with the gang. So I'm just glad to see that they took a little bit of my advice and just never followed.
Wow.
So.
No, that's awesome. So you're in Utah, you're established, right?
Yeah.
Your dad gets out of the hospital and you're like, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
So this is far enough from Fresno. So you set up life here. And one story I wanted to bring up, which you told me, which I think is so interesting. You kind of start being like the leader of the Hmong Association of Utah. Is that kind of how that works?
Well, we settled here. After my dad came out of his coma, I found a job already. So we were like, well, we might as well just settle here. And I settled here. I went back to school, graduated, got my BS in accounting. And at that time, the Hmong community was here. It was kind of small, but they needed somebody who can translate English to Hmong, and I guess I was just the best fit just because I knew how to translate English to Hmong and Hmong to English.
Which is a skill on its own. That is...
Which is really hard.
Yeah.
Which is really hard because, if you don't really think about it and you just do a literal translation,
right.
It's backwards ends,
Right.
So here's a kind of off the wall question that's slightly unrelated. When you read something or so say you're reading in English, does your mind have to translate it to Hmong, or can you read English so naturally as a second language that you can just understand it?
It's so natural that I can understand it.
Yep.
The hard part is trying to translate it when, let's say, when I'm trying to translate it to a Hmong elder, then I kind of have to sit there and think, okay, so what's the Hmong word for this English word,
That has always been a absolutely intriguing question for me.
I would love to be in the room during one of these translating
people who
sessions.
have multi-language or know multiple languages. Like, which language do you think in?
That's what I would. Yeah, that's what I was.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
next.
I only think in English because I only know English.
Yeah.
And so it seems like to me, because you were raised most of your life in the United States, would you say like you think in English, and you being on that last statement that you have to go back to some of your relatives that only speak Hmong and you have to think a little more about it? Would you say you think in English more than you think in Hmong?
Well, I tell my wife I think like how we talk, because me and my brother, when you guys see me talk, we talk English, and then we would throw a couple of Hmong words in there, or we will talk Hmong and we'll throw a couple of English words in there. And it's just, that's how I think. In my head, it's like that. Like I'll think Hmong, and then I get to a point where I was like, oh, this is the English, and I'll use English.
And let me say that is because maybe I'm not as self-secured. I have a...
Kirk is very insecure.
Maybe I'm insecure. But your son, Zach,
Yeah.
so you have two children.
Yeah.
Zoe and Zach,
Yep.
your wife, Gina.
Yeah.
Zach had to go to the emergency room recently and have his appendix removed.
Yep.
So I was able to go up there as pastor and be able to pray with you guys and be with you. And we're sitting there, and Tom, your brother's there, right, supporting the family. The nurses are coming in. All this is happening. It wasn't an emergency, but it needed to be removed.
Yeah.
And then here's Tom and Yeng in there, and the nurses, and everybody's talking in English, and they start talking in English, and all of a sudden start talking to each other in Hmong. And I told him afterwards, like, the very first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, there's something they don't want us to know about.
That's what I was going to ask.
And they're probably talking about me behind my, because I don't know what's going on. And these nurses had no clue. And you could see it on their face. They're like, they were absolutely like,
do you ever take advantage of that, knowing of a second
in a
language
restaurant, the food's not great. You're like,
I would be lying if I said I did that.
Hey, I would too. I'm
an honest man.
Because let's be real. How many people can speak Hmong in Utah?
I think you and I were talking like in total, the Hmong population's under 4 million, right?
Here in the U.S.?
Yeah,
in the
or
United
I guess
States.
overall, I don't know how many people overall,
under
but
a million.
in the U.S.
Yeah, in the U.S.
So small, tighter knit community, right?
Yeah, I mean here in Utah specifically, we're under 200 family. So whenever we have a get together or a party or New Year celebration, we always call each other. We show up to each other's house.
Right.
So that's how close knit we are here in Utah.
Which I think is super awesome and super respectable, because it seems like, we as a country seem to be going away from this idea of family and this idea of, getting together for holidays. Just with COVID and everything, we're losing kind of the family structure. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. You guys hold really tight to that, value.
Yeah.
And that's something to think about aside from countries and nations and people groups, but that's really what the church should be too. I mean, it's a model for, as a church, we're supposed to be a family, and if we're not, we're doing it wrong. But
well, and that leads me to this question. I like the fact that Arch City Church, we have different ethnic groups that come here.
How pretty diverse church, for sure.
Maybe just take a little bit of time and talk about how you made your way here.
Well, you know what? I made my way here through my wife, actually. Through my wife. I mean, I joke around my wife all the time. I ask her to find me a doctor, and for some reason, she always end up finding me an Asian doctor.
And they're not speaking Hmong, I'm assuming.
They're not speaking Hmong. Like, I mean, when we were in California, I asked her to find me a doctor, and she found me a doctor with the same last name as my first name. And then we came up here, and she couldn't find me a doctor with the same last name like my first name or my last name. So she found me an Asian doctor, which he was Korean. So I was looking at my wife, and I was like, "Are you like racist?" I didn't tell you specifically to find me an Asian doctor, but you keep looking for Asian doctors.
She wants you to feel comfortable.
Right? She was trying to find you an Asian church.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad that she brought us to this church, because I mean, I definitely we created a family here. You know, we're like a family. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, Kirk. When I first showed up, I was like, wow, everybody's white. I'm the only Asian.
There might be a Korean or two, but
and then it kind of fit. I kind of fit right in. Fit right in. I mean, Pastor Kirk made everybody feel welcome, and even though I was Asian, I felt welcome right in.
Yeah, and that's something to be said. Like, that's a whole nother podcast. Maybe we can talk about that as a follow-up to this or something. But how, one day we know we're going to be with God.
Definitely.
And there's going to be every tribe, every tongue, and we're going to all be worshiping him. But it is it's tough sometimes to think about how, you hold on to your culture. God never tells us to let go of our culture. Yeah. He just wants us to grasp him. Yeah. And that, a lot of missionaries make mistakes of, like, going back to even the original Catholic missionary that came to you. If he would have come over there and tried to bring France with him, that would have been a mistake. Yeah. Right? I mean, we want to go, and even here, we're not in another country, but people that come here to Utah, you're going to be absorbed in Utah culture. Yeah. Some of that's great. Some of that's awesome. It's just trying to understand who God is. But sometimes that can be a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it is, especially in our culture. I mean, there's a lot of I would say backlash from from the old culture. Like I still have uncles that are still from the old tradition that still runs with their shaman and stuff like that, and they always backlash us and be like, oh, you guys are Christian now, so you guys can't talk to us, you guys can't share the same food. And I mean, me personally, I always tell them, you know what, Jesus never told us that we can't share food with you. Jesus never told us that we can't associate with you. I mean, he came to earth and he associated with everybody that was not Christian.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean that since I'm a Christian now, I can't associate myself with you. How would that make me look as a Christian if I do that?
That's a great point. You know? And one of the greatest things that I've had other people who introduced me to pho, but you're the one that got me to start eating Vietnamese soup.
Do you want to touch on
delicious.
what pho is? I mean, it's really popular nowadays. So if you don't know what that is, I don't know. I guess.
Do you want me to touch on it, or do you want?
No, I mean, Yang. I don't know what you know about pho.
Yeah, I think he should touch on it.
Kirk's
Although you were the one that
expert.
kind of ate the whole bowl when you were getting really full.
Oh man, it was so good. They just give you such a huge quantity, even the small.
Yes.
But yeah, what is pho?
Pho is Vietnamese either beef or chicken broth noodle, and I mean it's just a noodle base. It's just noodle base, but you have different style of pho. You can depends on what region you're in. That you have Thai style pho, or you have Laotian style pho, and you have Vietnamese style pho. Vietnamese style pho has that. They put more. I would say more like what's that word I'm looking for? They just put more flavor into it.
Okay. Spices or
spices and stuff like that.
From what I read, the Vietnamese portion, right, has to do with some French influence.
Yeah.
When the French colonized Vietnam for so long.
Yeah.
Well, it's delicious, and by the way, the whole culture thing. You have it starting to mix, right? So, I stay conservative with my pho. I get like sirloin, but you get what?
I get everything. I mean, it comes with you have tripe in there, you have tendons, you have meatballs, and I mean definitely everything. And if it doesn't have everything, it ain't good past the curtain.
That's true.
No,
I'm like so hungry right now.
This is to like. I mean, I remember when we went, there was so many options, things you could get in there, things you could put in there afterwards, all the different spices, and it was. That was like my favorite part, just kind of doing it up the way I wanted. All the sauces you can put in it.
Yeah.
Little known fact about Yeng, he's definitely a restaurant connoisseur. You can go anywhere with him in Salt Lake, and he's going to find you a place you probably would have never ate at ever, or from the outside not wanted to eat at, and it's the best food you've ever had.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And another tidbit, and this will always be the case, but Yeng is older than me, Kirk.
you
Pastor Kirk
could
here.
not tell.
You really couldn't.
Thanks for pointing that out.
By 1 year, but we share a birthday.
Yes.
That is
Born
true.
on the same
Born on the same
month,
day.
baby.
Yeah.
April.
Same day.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
It's November, the
1947.
Something like that.
the year the Vietnam War started.
Kirk actually was the missionary that went to. Just kidding.
No. So, well, I mean, it's been great to hear
Thank
your
you, guys.
story.
Thank you.
I know that there's so much more we could talk about, and so many things that you go into.
So I just something I wanted to try out. This is our first episode, so I wanted to introduce this segment. But before you go, if you can quickly tell us what story in the Bible resonates a lot with you, and do you have a favorite biblical story?
What story in the Bible resonates off to me? You gotta make me think today.
I know.
You gotta make me think today.
Maybe we should have given
Take your
that
time, but
question
hurry up.
beforehand.
Kirk talks so much. I'm just kidding. But
I think me personally, the story that personally stuck with me was when Jesus was sitting with the prostitute and with the thieves and everything. I mean, that just resonates with me, and it's what brought me to Christianity. Is like, you know what, if Christ can sit with those that are the biggest sinners, I can be accepted.
Yeah.
Amen.
And
I
if
can
I
be
can,
accepted.
that's something that here at the church we really like to land on is
Strive
Jesus says, come as you are.
Yeah.
Don't fix yourself up and then come to me. No, that happens as you come to him, as he transforms you. Come as you are. Come with your questions. Come with your sinfulness. We all have it. And us as a church, but ultimately Jesus, I mean, that's what he's there for.
Yeah. I mean, definitely for me, I would say, I mean, if you haven't come to Christ yet because you're thinking of, I've been a sinner and Christ can't accept me. You know what? I grew up from the year 12 until I was like 18, 19. I grew up and I was totally bathing in sin, totally bathing in sin. And I think that was took me the longest to come to Christ, was because I was sitting in my sin, and I was just like, who can accept me? I mean, who can accept me for everything that I have done? Everything that I've done, even I can't forgive myself, but as I got to know more about Christianity and got to reading the Bible more and everything like that, I mean, definitely it starts opening my eyes and being like, you know what? If God says he forgives you, all of that, he took it and he threw it away, and you start fresh with him.
Yeah.
You start fresh with him. He doesn't bring that up, and he's not like us human where we hold a grudge and we always bring stuff back. He say he forgets and he forgives.
It's unfathomable.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, we sing a song here at Art City called "His Mercy Is More," and that's really, I mean, that's what it's about. Is I don't think we will ever exhaust or even completely understand, kind of like what Joel was just saying, the mercy of God and how he can continue to suffer long with us and forgive us, and even though we are broken people. But and think about this. You talked about freedom, when you were in Laos, and the promise that freedom was, it was promised to you. Actually, it was like the other way. It's like, if you don't fight with us, you won't be free. You come to United States, right? Your grandfather. You come to California. You get with a gang, and a lot of gangs will form based off of survival. And you want to talk about a close knit family. Gangs are usually some of those close knit families. So it's like we're all really looking for that inclusion. We're looking for that family. And what we believe as Christians is that it is Christianity. It's that relationship first and foremost with God. Jesus, through his sacrifice, through his death, burial, and resurrection, brings us back to that relationship with our Creator. But then we should be having that close knit, like the answer to the inclusion and the close knit family should be the church. Definitely. That we come together with the one thing that we have in common. We all love Jesus. He's the head of the church. We're his body, the church. And so it's just awesome to be able to get to know each other and celebrate that our diversity, our differences. We could all sit around this table right now and talk about all the differences that we have, but we have that one thing in common, is that we love Christ because he first loved us.
Yeah. I mean,
Amen.
I think me personally, it's just that part of being accepted, being accepted for who I am and what I am. And I mean, back in California, being part of that game, you have that, being part of the gang life, you have that feeling of, you know what, these guys accept me. They accept me for who I am. And I mean, I think us as human, we just yearn that acceptancy of being accepted into a family. Yeah. And it took me 20 plus years to realize that, you know what, God accepts me no matter what.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you, man, so much for coming on the show. First episode. I don't think we could have asked for a better first episode with our amazing guest. So thank you so much, Yeng. We appreciate it.
Let's give him a standing ovation.
Thank you.
Standing ovation.
Thank you.
You can't see it, but we're standing in our hearts.
There are actually 40 people in our studio right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, and guys, make sure you stay tuned, because we have some crazy stories and some exciting guests and exciting discussions coming up that you really won't want to miss. So stay tuned and subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Facebook. I mean, you name it.
Yeah, and thanks again, Yeng. And I just want to say, wow, what a privilege it is to just be able to, sit down and just talk about these things with you. So we know you have another part of your journey that's coming up, and we want to support you in that. And I also want to say, like, we've talked about a lot of different things, but not in depth. But bringing these things to our attention, we could go back and talk about them in more detail or research. And so encourage our audience to do that. But wow, thanks a lot, and
Thank
wow,
you.
Thanks for
we look
having
forward
me, guys.
to our future episodes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you on the next episode of Faith and Fellowship.
Goodbye.
I feel like you were out of breath.
It was his radio. It's his radio.
Not
voice.
a day goes by without a fat joke here at Art City Church.
Lyric, you can really put away some food.
I'm just saying. Gonna have an asthma attack over there, boy. It's just an intro.
You were like, "Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faith and
It's
Fellowship."
his radio voice.
Okay. All right. Just kidding. Hey, everyone. Well, the computer just dimmed.
Computer.
Sorry.
Gee, sounds like you're out of breath over there.
Would you like to join me in the gym? The show's model consists of an interview episode, a follow-up. I'm gonna do that again. The show's model consists of an interview episode and a follow-up response.
You sound like you're out of breath, man. You can really put it down.
All right, you can really put it down. Gosh. Oh.
You go back and listen to Lyric and tell me it doesn't sound like he's giving out a breath.
It's like this.
Okay, can I
Welcome to Faith and Fellowship. We're three guys based in Utah.
I'm currently on a treadmill as we record the podcast.
I actually felt like...
Can I redo mine really quick? Because I'm
No. We're keeping it. I'm stopping. Cut.
Cut.